All right, we're going to get started. We're going to stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please make sure that your cell phones are either on silent or turned off. We're going to start the meeting with the presentations under D, just because I think we have some lovely students that would probably not like to sit here all night. So, and did you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Erin Fairbairn. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Vicki Ramos, our District Superintendent, who was unable to be here due to a family matter. Accompanying me today is Phil Rose, our Board President for Wayne Finger Lakes, Andy McVeigh, the Wayne Technical Career Center Principal, and two instructors, Jim Buck, the Electrical Trades Instructor, and Frank Caswell, the teaching assistant that works in the program. So we appreciate you being here, but the main attraction is always our students, and they can articulate better than anyone the power of the programs that we offer within Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. So I'd like to introduce, and you're probably more familiar with Christian than I am. Christian, come on up. Christian Fensky. Christian is going to talk about his experiences in the electrical trade program, and he's accompanied today by Nancy, his mother. Christian, go right ahead. You can stand wherever you'd like.
Oh boy.
Okay?
Hi, I don't know how you want me to start this.
You can just talk about the program you're in and what you do.
Mr. Buck is a pretty cool electrical trades teacher. Bores us every day with his lectures. He teaches us residential, commercial, Cat 5, communications, wiring, a lot of stuff like that. We get a lot of skills, certifications, forklift, single man lift, stuff like that. I was pretty excited to be in this class because, I mean, all the certifications that really help us, myself and all the other students, get jobs in the future, have a little more of a foot in the door than most of the other people.
Do you want to point out what you're doing in the pictures? Because it's unfamiliar to a lot of people.
I'm working on some, putting receptacles in, and, well, right there I'm working on switches, cutting wire, stuff like that.
You want to talk about the other?
Yep. There's, we're using a scissor lift and a pitcher on the right, and the pitcher in the center I'm using. I don't talk very much, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. There's a lot of
I'm
people.
using a,
He does talk.
I think
I
you're doing
gotta
great.
act like I'm being serious right now, that's what it is. I'm using a tester in the pitcher in the center on a fuse box for the main panel in Mr. Buck's workshop. The picture on the left from bending the conduit with one of Mr. Buck's good benders. I don't think he knew I was using it though.
Yeah, I wasn't there when you were taking the picture.
And then you want to share like the construction and your box that you get, your electrical space.
Yeah, we each get our own boxes that we work in. We do basic Romex wiring, switches and receptacles, lights, stuff like that, and then we move on, usually about halfway through the year, to MC cable, or whenever we get to that project. Mr. Buck has a pretty cool testing box, troubleshooting box, I'm sorry, and then middle picture there, to show us basic troubleshooting, which is actually really helpful when you want to get a job, because a lot of companies need that. And on the picture on the far right, that's a lockout tagout. It's very important for when you're working on somebody else's house so you don't get electrocuted.
So you want to share what you want to do when you get out of school?
Preferably electrical.
Okay.
Get a job anywhere, Mr. Buck. He's probably not going to help me get a job, actually.
Okay, we'll see you later.
sure I have a few job opportunities lined up for me somewhere. I do, but not very good ones yet. Hopefully I can start an apprenticeship when I'm done with BOCES. Mr. Buck, he taught us a lot, thankfully. I've tried to pay attention as much as I can. His lectures are pretty boring though.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please ask questions.
Are you a senior this year?
I am.
Okay, so are you going to enter the workforce after your apprenticeship, or are you going to continue your education? Have you decided yet?
Not quite.
Okay.
I'm more than likely gonna continue my education for a few more years.
Okay.
Hopefully
I
get a
think-
better job.
Yeah, I think it's great, because I think we certainly need more students in the trades, because there's a need, and you will be aware of that need if you're not right now, very soon.
Absolutely. There's a lot of businesses that are really short-handed, and this program really helps. I mean, I'm sure somebody in this room has had some mishaps in their house and they needed something fixed. That's really where BOCES comes in handy, because they train a lot of new students and push them out to businesses. And businesses are really eager to grab all the kids at BOCES, so your money's not wasted at all.
Thank you for that, Christian.
Yes. And also thank you for saying that.
Also, for $20 an hour, I can give you Christian's phone number.
Other questions?
Does the program, he talked about apprenticeships, does the program help them look for available apprenticeships in the area and connect our students with those apprenticeships?
Yes, Mr. Buck does a lot of that
Yes.
work, actually. He tells us every day how lucky we are to have him.
Do you want to share?
Actually, we already started having guest speakers coming in, and we have roughly about 30 different companies that are a part of our consultant committee team. So I use them not only as a consultant committee team, but also coming in and do presentations. They also have hired tremendous amount of our students in the past. Frank, what did we have last year out of 38? 31 of them were hired into the electrical field.
That's great.
Okay.
Wow.
Christian doesn't tell you everything. Surprising, I don't know why. OSHA 10 training, I already have. Forklift training, scissors lift training, one-man lift training, Cat 5 training. They are right now presently off campus on a job site, working, doing another a pole barn for a customer. When they get done with that one, we have another one that's probably the other way of the school that we'll be doing also. Those are residential. In the meantime, we have a job after those two that are gonna be commercial. So it's one nonstop, constantly going. The juniors at the same time are actually just started wiring up a Habitat for Humanity house for Wayne County. That's in our pole barn. So each year, we do a Habitat house, one for Wayne County, one for Ontario County. So we flip-flop each time. And these guys, last year we had a problem, so what ended up happening is these guys didn't get it, so now we're off campus. So what we're doing is trying to make up. But what happens is that we also have college comes in and speaks to them, the ones that are having electrical. Air Force and Navy, all the armed forces, we have all the different companies that come in. And by February, the first week in February, we got the 5 days are all filled up already of different ones coming in. And I mean, it's great for me because we don't have to do anything except just sit there. But it gives these people time to absorb and figure out, what am I gonna do when I leave here? And that's the whole thing behind it. I don't want one person, any of them going in and saying, this is what I'm gonna do, and that's it, because I've had many students say, this is what I'm gonna do when I graduate. And halfway through, it's like, I'm gonna do this instead. Yeah, I know. So, we try to give them a variety of everything, so this way here, they can pick and choose what they want. And do we help them? Yeah, because we try to give them internships and co-ops in the meantime, while they're still in school. So they're actually working and making money and getting a feel for what it's real like to work with somebody that's hollering at them constantly besides me.
We constantly have industry partners that reach out and say, can you put us in front of your students? So recently, the New York State Thruway, if you've driven on the Thruway, you know that they're redoing all of the rest stop areas. They said that they would hire any of our students in electrical trade, conservation, because they need skilled laborers. So that's coming up shortly, and the students will have access directly to hiring agencies. All good opportunities.
Is that only for seniors? I'm
Seniors,
assuming the
yeah,
second
we-
year.
Yeah, we
Okay.
traditionally, because then they can hire them right
Right
out. It's
after.
not that we don't expose our juniors, but traditionally in the senior year is when they really go out on their individual internships and really specialize in what they wanna focus on when they get out of school.
Okay.
And we're measured on our post-placement data. So we're measured on, the success we're measured on is how our students do 1 year out. So it's always exciting, we'll reach out to you, Christian, and we'll ask you what you're doing. And then we submit that data to the state to make sure that we're doing what we need to prepare students for college or career. Questions?
And one of the things I would like to point out
Sure.
about this program, our tech center in general, explosive growth in the last 5 years. We're actually trying to be as creative as we can with the number of students who are enrolled, our staffing and actual physical space where they can go. Your program in particular, that area was demolished and added into a storage room and built all by our seniors to make room for the current classes. Your junior class is how many now, Mr. Buck?
40.
So we have 40 juniors, there are
31 seniors.
seniors. And as Mr. Buck said, the class prior to that was almost all spoken for by business and industry. We're getting down to crunch time, so in second semester, we've actually had representatives from the electrical unions, local business and industry. They sit down with our students and actually start the hiring interviewing process literally right in our shop. So again, Mr. Buck makes that available to them, and they're just screaming for folks in the industry. So it's a good time to be at the tech center. Believe me, I've been here a long time, so I'm digging it. And being creative and expanding programs, but actually having people come up and show up at our building, and you're kind of walking a fine line between, I need to hold on to this kid to graduation, and somebody is saying, well, I would really like them to work for me full-time today. So it's a little bit of a give and take in that relationship. But yeah, you did well for yourself. You made a nice pick. Fine gentleman. I'm so glad he comes out to the tech center. Anytime that I drive out to Red Creek, I really appreciate all of your kids, just because it takes me that long to get from the that is a significant commitment on your behalf and your classmates to make that trip every day. That shows a certain level of dedication. I appreciate that.
There's only one thing left I gotta say, because I always say it every time. Anybody's more than welcome to come to the tech center and take a personal tour. We'll be glad to show you around.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anytime, our doors are always open. And we love our students to share their experiences because it helps us get better.
And if you come in the morning, we'll have Christian do it for you.
So thank you very much. So Phil, Rose, and I are going to just share a little bit more about BOCES. In addition to our career tech programs, we have other services that we provide.
I'm not gonna read the slide because you're all adults and you can read
Share
this
the-
as easily as I can, nor am I gonna read the speaker's notes. What I wanna do is tell you, I am on the Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. I'm one of 9 members. Each of the members represents one of the 25 or one or more of the 25 districts that are comprised of our BOCES. And so part of my job is to represent you on our board. So I want you to encourage you to anytime you have a question, feel free to reach out to me. I live right down in Sodus. The other thing I want to say to you is thank you. As a cooperative, I want to say thank you for allowing us to be in the lives of your children. What you saw with Christian, that's really what brings it to our hearts for us and why we serve on the board. So, thank you.
Great.
Erin?
So I just have a few more specific to your district. So these are the services that you purchase through our BOCES. Our BOCES believes in making success possible. So when component districts come to us and ask us for a service or a collaborative relationship with another district, we make that possible. And that's what our job is. So you have, as you heard from Christian, career and tech students, you utilize a small portion of our special education programs, and you see the other. You have a shared school social worker that we share with you, edutech services, regional summer school, central business office, and public administration and telecommunication. Your district aid ratio is 0.787, and your total estimate aid is, $1,375,443. And just as a reminder, special education programs do not receive BOCES aid, they receive high-cost aid. And our BOCES has 4 pillars that we really focus on and are at the foundation of our decision-making and the work that we do with our district. And that includes creating regional impact by creating programs that students can leave and be employed. We want to make sure that we increase capacity of individual component districts. We want to make sure we're committed to transforming pedagogy, including introducing innovative practices like personalized learning into our region. We want to make sure that we're promoting a culture of innovation, as I just shared, and we want to make sure we're fostering effective communication. What are your questions? Well, we never have this large of an audience. Thank you very much.
I have one question.
Oh, great.
What is your attendance policy?
Our attendance policy?
Yes.
We really work
For your
with,
students?
so we, our BOCES has 25 component districts, and we really follow the component district's attendance policy. That's what we do. So we make sure that we're working in partnership.
So you don't say if a child misses 3 days at school, they're disqualified from the program? Because somewhere I heard that, if they miss X amount of days, they're disqualified from the program.
We have to be, especially in the beginning when students are being introduced, we have safety modules that they have to be able to participate in. But it's really more of on an individual basis. We don't disqualify a student for missing 3 days, ever.
Okay, I just,
And
I
especially,
heard that, you know, I
ever-
heard it's like,
yeah.
this X amount of days, I'm gonna be kicked out of the program.
Yeah, we
And they're
work,
really worried about it.
we really work with our component districts to make sure, because we want it to be seen as an extension of your high school. It's a little farther for you, but we want to make sure that we exist, our BOCES exists, to provide support and access to opportunities for students. So we really work within the confines of, the district policies, but also making sure that we're maintaining safety, because we do have safety modules we have to get through.
Thank you.
But good question. Other question? I saw a hand up.
Yeah, I was just curious, with the trades being such a, there's such a need for the trades, and you guys, what you offer there, are you seeing an expansion, a need because of interest, and is that on the horizon, that all the 25 component schools will end up being part of decision-making of an expansion of your campus?
So we really have been trying to get creative. We, this year, our population increased by over 150 students. We have 2 campuses, but we're looking at our programming and we're looking at a few things. We're looking at academy models where students come in, we did this with our advanced manufacturing. Students come in year 1 and they learn welding, machining, and CAD. And then in the second year, they specialize if they want to be a welder, if they want to be, so we are doing more of an academy model. Our next one we're looking at is conservation and heavy equipment and making sure that that becomes an academy in our criminal justice program. We're making a service academy and we're incorporating fire, EMS, and criminal justice into that. So one of the reasons we're doing that is we want our students in their senior year to get off campus and make sure that they're out in the community. So we really we're expanding our academy model so that we can do more of that. We're also looking at, we have a P-Tech campus in Newark, which is centrally located. So we're looking at, if we continue to grow in various programs, can we centralize some, like computer technology, ed professions, can we put that in a school? At the same time, we're looking at how to build the capacity of our districts and what they're offering for students. So we often work with the Finger Lakes Community College to be able to offer programming that students may not want to come to our program, but be exposed to it in their districts. So we look at different ways of doing it.
Thank you.
But yes, we're always looking at creative ways to find new space.
Do we have any Red Creek students enrolled in P-Tech?
Currently, you do not. Currently, you do not. You did though during COVID, I believe, because I was out here dropping off some hot spots. Because I remember it. So if
Have
you
we
want,
had anybody ever?
you haven't? Well, someone
Yeah.
lived here during COVID. I dropped off some hot spots. Yeah. But that's another opportunity if you ever want to look at it or learn more about it.
Can you explain what the P-TECH program is?
So P-TECH stands for Pathways in Technology Early College High School. It was a grant that was now started 9 years ago. It starts in 9th grade, and students there's an application process. It was for, the grant, we wrote the grant, and it was, we received the grant for non-traditional students. So first-generation students, students that aren't finding success in your schools. So when we interview students and take students, we normally take students that are not functioning in your programs, not doing well with attendance, students that are currently not thriving. But they enter in 9th grade and they graduate with their associates, applied associates from FLCC in one of 3 areas focusing on information technology. And they have 4 or 5 or 6 years to complete the program. So as they're getting their regents, they're getting their, they're being exposed to college classes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Another great program you should visit if you get a chance, by the way. It is incredible. I've gone in and visited and talked, and what I really love is how the community, how the businesses come in, and they'll come and work with the classes and bring them a problem. And instead of your traditional 30 kids sitting down looking at a blackboard being taught math, they're solving the problem for the business and learning along the way. It's really a great, great opportunity.
And our programs aren't for every student. They're really that special student that just, needs something a little different, and that's what P-TECH has been offering some students. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Appreciate it.
I'll let Christian know it's clapping, because he was really excited about that.
He snuck out too fast.
Did that for him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Zach, would you like to go next?
All right, got a packet for each of you.
Thank you.
Oh, I watched this online.
Okay, well that's starting out. I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Nicole Zeck, art teacher here at the high school. I've been with the district, this is my 6th year, and along with just being the art teacher, I also hold many hats. I'm senior class advisor, art club, all that great stuff, and now have added the student pitch competition to my belt of things that I do here at the district. And this is...
I'm Ryan Zeck. I'm often referred to as her better half. So I'm a proud Red Creek alumni. This past December is a little over one full year with the district. I teach middle and high school business and technology education, and absolutely love what I do here.
With us, we have Nate Holmes. He's a junior, and you're going to see some of this stuff on the presentation here. Get that going, fingers crossed. And then we have Hannah MacArthur, who's a senior here with us as well. And like my classroom, sometimes technology just doesn't want to work, so this does. If not, then we'll be talking, and I'll use a lot of hand motions, and hopefully you can visualize it. I can draw pictures for you as well. I do love these boards now that I know that mine can work. I had one in my classroom and it was a TV for a little while, but now it's a full, it's working good. Okay. So first off, the student pitch competition. This was something that came across our, well, actually not even my email, it came across Ryan's email, and we're gonna talk about how we got here and then our future plans. So we have Nate Holmes, like I said, he's a junior here. He's our 3rd place winner for our competition, and we'll talk about what that competition looked like. It happened this past November, and Nate had a project that was called Graba Java. Nate has a concept where he created a coffee cup. It was more like it was kind of like a shell almost of what the project or the object would look like. So it was a coffee mug that you could have coffee grounds inside of it, and it would have a heating component where it would turn on. And in this competition, our students created, not physically created it, but created it on more of a virtual platform. We also have Hannah MacArthur. Hannah won 2nd place. She won $1,200. Like I said, Hannah is a senior, and we were really impressed with how everything kind of turned out from where we started versus where we ended. And I have some components to show you for hers as well. And last but not least, our final student that participated in this was Patrick Boyle. He's a junior here at Red Creek as well, and he's the winner of $1,500 for his app called Magnify. So where did this all start? A few years ago, Mr. Zeck and I were driving in the car, and I say Mr. Zeck like I'm still teaching in front of kids. Brian and myself were driving in the car, and I said to him, I think a really cool idea would be a Shark Tank for my digital media class. So we kind of bounced some ideas off of each other, and push come to shove, we came up with a pretty cool concept where my digital media class would create objects or an app. And we were learning Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop, so they would create what it looked like. They could actually use this if they ever really wanted to make an app. They could actually use this and put it on the App Store. But they would create what the kind of the shell, the components of what the like what an app would look like, what an object would look like if they were really were to buy it. So with that, my students would go into the business classroom. They would present their app or their object in front of the class. The class would have fake money that had my face on it, and it said Shark Tank money. They would hold up as investors, and it was like the actual game show Shark Tank, but it was digital media with Mrs. Zeck style. Students would show their ideas. They would explain what their business component was, and then if students wanted to invest money, they would hold up the money at the end of the presentation, and then we would collect the money, and whoever won, it was just kind of a fun event for students. And we've been doing this now, I think, for 3 years. This past year, we had Hannah and Nate in the classroom along with Patrick, and right after we had finished our digital media Shark Tank version of Mrs. Zeck, Ryan gets an email that says, from Cynthia, hey, would you like to participate in this competition? It's a Shark Tank or that style theme where you can put in for a student pitch competition, and we jumped on it. In that Shark Tank in my classroom, you can see some of the imagery here. So on the left-hand side, we have some of the things that Patrick Boyle created for his Magnify. So he created the imagery that you see all on Adobe Illustrator. He created even like the app icons. He created all of that. And part of the component for my classroom was also to make it look like it was actually on the App Store, or if it was an object, actually create what it would look like in real life if it was a real thing. He also created, a component of it was to create a SWOT analysis, so identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for your company as well. And in my class, I teach students how to use Adobe Premiere, which is a video editing software. So Patrick also created a short advertisement to present during his presentation for Shark Tank, so I'll show you that now. Okay, so although it was only about a 30-second clip, what really went into all of this work for my Shark Tank, it was about a month, 1 month's worth of everyday class, 43 minutes, working on what it actually looked like from on paper to what you actually see. We also have Hannah's. Okay, this is Hannah's. So Hannah presented our class with some really interesting components. So In the top image up there, she used, with the cell phone, she used Adobe Photoshop. She also used Adobe Illustrator. She created her app and then put it on a telephone, like a cell phone, on the App Store, what it would actually look like if it was sitting on a phone on a table. She also had some videos that would bring us through kind of like the live action of what that her video game called X15 would look like. She also created some different characters in Adobe Illustrator. You can see that on the top right. And at the bottom, she really blew us away when she threw in some of her coding class that she learned with Mr. Robbins. She had an entire website that was directly linked to her app called X15, and it explained all of the rules and everything that went into it. So she really blew us away, and that's a live link that I'll actually bring you to her class as well. So Nate Holmes, here's that coffee cup that I was talking about. So this is what he designed. This is how he was able to show what that coffee cup looked like. Put the grounds on the inside, had a USB port to connect it to her power, and he created the brand logo Grappa Java.
All right, so kind of following up with what she said with like partnership with multiple classes. This project really allowed us to like take my business-based class, her design class, and really hone in and focus on an interdisciplinary approach to teaching. We were able to take the partnership of digital media with career and finance, and then together it really helped increase the caliber of work as it exposed the students to real-world scenarios that they might be exposed to or even see on TV, seeing like innovative business presentations. From a business perspective, on my end, we looked at a SWOT analysis and then market viability with that design approach in mind, but we also gave insight from an investment perspective. We had a limited amount of funds to work with, and we had to watch all the presentations and figure out how much money we wanted to invest in each of these products based off of what we thought the viability of the product would be in certain market conditions. And then, of course, there was a lot of different facts that went into there, how it was presented, how it was approached, what the legitimacy of the product looked like, the appearance. If I open this product up on say the Google App Store or the Apple App Store or Google Marketplace, would this product kind of catch my eye? Would it be legitimate from a designer's perspective? And then once you looked into the details of it, does this look like a real business? We go through this project, and then about a month later, I get an email from Cindy, and I get this light bulb, right? I see this exact flyer here, as in a PDF, saying, hey, could we maybe look into this, for our students and, over the next year, because we did this project back, I think it was last April or May, and then, we're nearing up towards the end of the year, but then we had, the deadline was early October, so I'm reading through the qualifications of it, and then I forward it over to Nicole, and I go, I think that we have well over half the legwork done here from a design perspective. We really just need to, hone in on what the criteria was for, for the business competition itself. So what that kind of looked like was, looking at different elements of, the 3-year business plan model, and then comparing it to competitors, and then kind of bringing some of those more fine-tuned things, which I'll get into a little bit later in the presentation.
So I was faced with kind of looking at all of my students' work and deciding, well, which one should I work with, because I can't work with everyone that presented. I just don't have enough time or energy, and I wasn't even really quite sure what to expect because it was our first year doing it, but it was also their first year offering the student pitch. That they had always done an adult version of this competition, but this was the first year for the students. So I asked 4 students to come in, and I had hey, do you want to jump in on this boat and we'll see how we do after school meeting, and I had 3 students that stuck with me. And when I was looking at the students' work, please don't be afraid where it says all of the missing. I had some students that worked in groups of 2, so they did turn it in, I promise. But I had a student that turned in a cape that would had I think it was some sort of diamond in there that when they turned, the cape would make it invisible. So I had some business pitches like that, which is totally fine. If you can pitch me an idea and you can make it seem like it is going to actually work, I'm all for it. It was more on the design standpoint and less of the, it doesn't necessarily have to be realistic. So when I was choosing the 4 students that we were willing to sit down and work with after school, Hannah, Nate, and Patrick were the ones that said that they were willing to work with us. we spent about 22 hours between September and October, it was roughly about 22 hours, and then it was like a 2:30 to 3:30 every week roughly.
So my time working with the students invested in the project was really looking at calculating percentages in relation to things such as state labor statistics. We looked at statistics like for example, Nate's project, we looked at how many coffee drinkers are there, in North America, and then we looked at, what would be, one of our suppliers. Then we looked at Dunkin' Donuts. Then we looked at, how many Dunkin' Donuts locations are there, primarily on the East Coast where we want to get started. Then from there we looked at who our target demographic was. So then we put it into ratios and perspectives, out of that total population, who we were targeting this product to. So then it was just, sheet after sheet of math calculations and, rough hand, and then eventually going back, putting it into that nice Excel, sheet at the end. We also looked at things such as, competitor chains, who we'd be competing against. Are there existing products like this on the market, and what would set us apart from, from the competition? Then we looked at, what the manufacturing cost behind such products and services would be, what kind of specialists would be involved in the production. Taking liability out of the equation, we looked at legal service teams and other financial aspects there. We looked at what the viability was in current market conditions, where we could be manufacturing, like his product, here in the United States, where we outsource it overseas. So there was just a lot of time spent looking at hypothetical scenarios, situations, vendors, supplies. And then we wrapped that all up into this nice, 3-year projection plan and business model, basically filling in the rest of the gaps for this competition that already had a lot of and most of that design aspect done as a result of that Shark Tank project. So then next will be the next slide. You will see here's an example of for Hannah's X15 app. All the different components that went in, what we thought were applicable to her product as a digital service, and of course all 3 students had very different models, because some of them needed physical space to store, components, resources, manufacturing, and then whereas others only needed, for example, in Hannah's it was mainly digital, so you didn't need the physicality, right? You could work remotely, you could hire anybody, within a certain skill range to do this, and kind of collaboratively work in the digital environment.
So now we're going to watch a 5-minute video. This was what was actually turned in by Patrick. Each student here also has a video, and that's at the end of the packet. There's QR codes if you'd like to scan them after, if you get some time and like to watch them. They're all 5-minute videos, so part of the components of turning in for the project, it was a 5-page summary, the cash flow analysis, and the 5-minute video.
Hello, I'm Patrick Boyle, and I'm a junior at Red Creek High School. Around 2 years ago, I was watching the news with my parents when a particular story came on. The woman depicted in this photo was caught publishing incredibly realistic doctored images of 3 teenage girls. These images were incredibly incriminating. The woman's intention was to spoil the girl's chances of getting on the cheerleading team to ensure her daughter's spot. Some of these images were so bad I can't even show you to them because I don't even have access to them. The most frightening part of the story was to hear about how realistic these images were. I was curious to find out how somebody could make such real images. I was so shocked by this news story about the mother framing the 3 teenage girls that I decided I would do more research into what happened. I found out that the mother had created a deepfake. A deepfake is an incredibly realistic doctored image developed using AI. These deepfakes are often used for nefarious purposes, such as with the cheerleading team. I found even more concerningly that there's an alarming rate of growth for these deepfakes on the internet. One number by Forbes magazine shows that at the beginning of 2019, there were 7,964 deepfake videos on the internet, and this number increased to 14,768 in just 9 months. My product is an app called Magnify that scans various forms of media to check the media's authenticity. This app will help to determine what media is real and what media is fake to help prevent potential consequences that could arise from the increase in deepfakes. The app can scan digital or physical media and make determinations on its authenticity. The app looks for issues with the media, such as the media data or inconsistencies with lighting. After scanning, the app then gives users the option to share the results of the scan to the world via social media or by Magnify's own website. Our app has greater accuracy than competitors, is far more easy to navigate, and it can actually scan physical media. This app will be competing in the niche market of deepfake detection in the wider fields of cybersecurity and computer software. Our software is an easy-to-use app, unlike competitors' Metapix and Exadata. Although Microsoft has developed an app for the same purpose, it cannot be used to scan physical media like Magnify can. Magnify's target market includes primarily adults and some younger people, as well as law enforcement departments and agencies, journalists, and educational institutes. According to Pew Research, at least 95% of Americans ages 18 to 45 own a smartphone, so this opens up a large portion of the American population to be potential customers. Magnify believes that, to start with, we would have 40,000 users total in our first year. The increased use of technology, as well as the increase in deepfakes in recent years, will surely help to promote our app. Magnify would be free to use, but would have in-app advertisements that could be removed with a paid subscription. Magnify would offer group accounts for different organizations and businesses. This would mean organizations could pay for a discounted subscription that multiple people can use over many devices. Magnify would not sell any user data to preserve customer privacy. Magnify would have sales representatives physically or virtually give a pitch about the product to relevant companies and relevant government agencies. Magnify would put out advertisements on social media and on television to reach a greater market. We estimate in year one we would make a total income of $207,440, and we would spend $89,403 on expenses, with $30,000 of that going to developing the app for a net profit of $118,037. In year two, we would make $104,985 net profit and $120,953 net profit in year three. This would give us a total profit of $225,937 over 3 years. Payroll, travel, and app maintenance would cost Magnify the most after the initial app development. I would be CEO of Magnify. I would be completely in charge of the company by making all major decisions. I'd like to thank Mrs. Zeck for telling me about this project. She helped have me use what I did last year in one of her digital media classes, which involved a similar concept where I came up with a product and gave a pitch about it to a class. I'd like to thank Mr. Zeck for helping me understand financials so that I could develop my projections and help with a business plan.
Okay, so looking at Patrick's video.
Hello, I'm Patrick Boyle, and I'm a junior at Red Creek High School.
Here we go. The things that we used was Canva, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Premiere Pro. You can see this is Nate's video up here. So my students already knew how to use that video editing software. So that video that we just saw that Patrick put together, he literally put that together himself. So he did all the video editing, the sounds, everything that you saw, the transitions and all of that great stuff. We even found some GIFs, I always say it wrong, like this one right here for Hannah's X15. And Nate's just gonna give us a few words about his personal experiences on this.
So overall, I think the student pitch competition was a great experience. Not only was it just overall an enjoyable time to go out and be in that environment, but it also showed me a lot of the info into starting your own business that I wouldn't have already known, such as all the stuff Mr. Zeck said about finding statistics, how you would sell your product, writing financial plans up to 3 years, learning about competition and how to adapt in your own field. And on top of that, it gave me another chance to test my ability to project and express my ideas in a clear and concise way. And overall, I think this experience would be really great for students to have the same opportunities I had, if not greater, in future years.
So the actual day itself was on November 9th. We brought the 3 students up to dinner first, and it was really cool because we actually were served by a robot, so it was a very memorable experience. We set the phone up. So, as we were sitting there eating, it was just one of the experiences that, one of those memorable things. Then as we got there, the students' parents met us up there. Building principal came with with us with dinner, and then went up to the competition as well. And then lo and behold, we had 3 top place winners, so first, second, third. And then because we had 3 students from our district that won, our district also brought home a check for $1,000 to be used for things to help benefit our endeavors in the student pitch.
So just a few closing remarks. Like she said, you know, we received, having the top 3 placeholders, you know, $1,000 to continue in that spirit of entrepreneurship. And then our plans with that are to use this year as a springboard to really hope to inspire students to bring their work, you know, in future years to the next level. You know, the buzz around the school just in the weeks after this competition, I had students I've never had as business students before come into my room and, is it really true that, you know, all those students won that money? Like, yeah, they're like, yeah, but it don't matter because that just all goes to the school, right? I'm like, no, that money went right to those students' pockets. Like, they put in the work, they earned it, they did the work. We'll have to maybe see, like, when is that pitch, you know, when is that business competition again? So, you know, that was just really cool to see that immediate return, you know, in the community. You know, we wanna help expand, you know, our own opportunities as educators, and then take these initiatives that we're trying and, you know, continue to provide 21st century career skills. You know, it's our belief that, you know, this will further assist our students, you know, going down, you know, beyond the walls of Red Creek to their future endeavors, whether that's education at a higher level, skilled trades, internships, or immediately entering the workforce, you know, as soon as they graduate. And then in terms of our, you know, our outreach service and paying it forward, we've already as a community, you know, received dividends on this as our first place winner, Patrick, decided to donate approximately $1,000 of his winnings to the Red Creek Food Pantry. So that was a humbling, you know, act in itself, just seeing one of our students immediately pay that forward. So, you know, we really couldn't do things like this, you know, like I said, it takes a village. I never would have been even, you know, remotely known of this opportunity if it wasn't for Cindy Hay, so thank you, Cindy. You know, thank you to our administration for the support. The 21st Century Grant truly made this opportunity possible, as well as, you know, help put that motivation there to kind of get everybody together and make it, you know, truly, you know, an effort. So, you know, I want to thank you all for your time this evening. You know, we welcome your input on this project, as well as any, you know, questions or, you know, any recommendations that you have, you know, moving forward with this.
Any questions?
How many students participated overall, not from Red Creek?
This year there was 4 students that participated, so we did well.
Oh, okay.
However, it was our first year. Next year, I guess we'll see what happens with how many students. Now that, I mean, we are buzzing about it here, and I have a lot of students that are interested in participating for next year, depending on how many we can accommodate. Hopefully some students may even take the initiative if we can accommodate just with our time. Yeah.
What was the other school?
I'm actually not quite sure.
Clyde?
Wayne,
Clyde.
it was Wayne County, so it was this.
I think it was
school
Clyde.
district.
It says on here Clyde.
Clyde.
I didn't even
Clyde
see that.
school.
So was this open to all Wayne County schools then? Okay.
Yep.
Part of one thing we forgot to mention was part of the experience was that they got to see business pitches from you know, just adult community members that were looking to either expand or create their own businesses. And I mean, these weren't like innovative services like, you know, the next Apple iPhone. I mean, these were everyday products and services. Like one person came up with a mobile notary. They'll come to you with those services right here in Wayne County. The person that won the adult competition, they received a $20,000 grant, and they baked sourdough bread out of their home. So, I mean, these are just everyday products and services that they want to see our next generation bring back into our communities and hopefully make them better places where, you know, they want to stay, raise families, start businesses, and, you know, expand this area, so.
I think it was also really intriguing and insightful to hear adult business owners give you guys all your feedback when we were there. I think that was really beneficial as we were sitting there. They actually came over and talked about each one, and as they introduced each one, they really talked about how much work they knew they put in there, and you guys really knocked their socks off. It was really, really a pleasure to be there with you guys and having you represent Red Creek. You really did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
In the packets that you all received, there is copies of the 5-page business plans for each of our winners, and then also, like I said, the QR code on the back page where you can watch the 5-minute videos. They should all work. I tested them myself. I'm learning QR codes, and I was really excited about sharing those. So, any other questions?
I think this is a great direction. So much of our society today is looking at entrepreneurship. And a lot of times, especially, some of the younger generation new to, let's say, the adult world. And even high school students are like, oh, I can start a business with this, I'll just sell this, I'll create this, I'll sell that. And they don't know a lot of the detail that goes into it, like the stuff that Mr. Zach is going over with them. And then the marketing piece of it, the saying, if you build it, they will come, it's not true. But, I mean, you need marketing, you need the capital to back it. So I think it's a great direction for the reality of where the society's going.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Congratulations. If you guys are headed out, do you mind, would you just prop that door open? Because it's like 100 degrees in here. This TV's putting on some heat. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're gonna back up to public forum now. I'm gonna go right down the list if that's okay. Mrs. Dates, do you wanna go first?
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Heidi Dates, a retired teacher for Red Creek Central Schools with 39 years of service. And also additionally, I was an Inventive Minds consultant for the first 19 years of its existence. During our Inventive Minds meetings, our inventors were instructed that inventions are born from solving a problem. It was a pivotal part of our program, and students were often asked to find a solution to solve a problem. Tonight, I am here to request that you, our members of the Board of Education, help to solve the problem currently going on with the Inventive Minds program here at Kyler. For the past 5 years, both of the Inventive Minds consultants were paid the full stipend. This year, it was determined that the stipend should be split between the two individuals as per the language of the contract. There is no doubt that the contract does indeed state that. But that was also the case in the past, and yet both consultants were each given the stipend. The Inventive Minds consultants of Tammy Curtis and Nora Bartholomew have spent many, many hours trying to find solutions to this problem. One solution was to write a proposal to have a third grade Inventive Minds consultant and also a fourth grade Inventive Minds consultant, with each of them being able to take the full stipend. This solution makes sense in that often the Inventive Mind program involves 30 to 40 students. If you really stop and think about it, our district does not have just one teacher for that amount of students. And we don't have a coach that has that number of athletes either. However, when the solution was brought up to have both a third grade Inventive Minds consultant and a fourth grade Inventive Minds consultant, it was brought up to the superintendent, and he spoke with the board leaders and said that the board wasn't accepting any new proposals for this year and that it should be brought up for the following year. This doesn't really make sense to me. In the past, and I have been employed by Red Creek for 39 years, I have seen the Board of Education hire additional teachers in the midst of a school year. I've seen them hire additional coaches, have a modified A, modified B team to accommodate the needs of our students. But this proposal of having a third grade Inventive Minds consultant and a fourth grade Inventive Minds consultant never even made it to you, the members of the board, to be voted on. Another solution was that Inventive Minds could become a part of the 21st Century program under Jen Devaney. Again, this appeared to be a very good solution in that the inventors would be part of our 21st Century program, which would help increase the number of students that are served in the program. And our Inventive Minds consultants would be able to be paid from the grant funds. And yet again, this solution was shot down from the top. A former Kyler principal, Linda Serino, often said to us staff, "Don't come to me with your problem unless you can also come with your idea of a solution or solutions." Mrs. Curtis and Mrs. Bartholomew have come up with solutions, but yet it appears that neither of their solutions will be accepted. And so, alas, they have written a letter of resignation that each one of you received. It breaks my heart, and it will also break a lot of our children's hearts to hear that Inventive Minds will most likely not take place this year. Having been an Inventive Minds consultant, I know and can remember very well the excitement of myself and my counterpart Marie Smith, along with the utter excitement of our children when the Inventive Minds program began each year. Inventors would pop by our classroom, even though they weren't supposed to, on their way in the morning. Instead of going from the bus to their classroom, we'd see them appear in our doorway when we were teaching lessons. It was their lunchtime, but they needed to talk to us. Perhaps on their way to a music lesson, or when they were supposed to be going to the nurse, they would appear looking in the window, just waiting to be recognized, waiting to grab our attention, because they could not wait to share their enthusiasm with us about their ideas. In small districts, there's not a lot of extra programs. We all know that, especially at the elementary level. And therefore, the idea of losing the Inventive Minds program is really disheartening. The Kyler students are anticipating jumping into Inventive Minds, and you as the Board of Education can help this occur. Please be part of the solution and help to solve this problem. Tonight, I request, or maybe I need to say, I beg you to not accept Tammy Curtis's and Nora Bartholomew's letter of resignation, and instead accept, adapt, or initiate one of your own solutions so that our third and our fourth graders can begin inventing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for those of you who don't know me, I retired from Red Creek. I'm starting my third year of retirement bliss. And Heidi and I have been Inventive Minds coaches from the inception of the program. Heidi left in year 19. I tried to convince her to stay through year 20 so we could have an anniversary celebration, but she wouldn't do it. So that is when Tammy joined me as and we did the program together. I think it's important, when I look at the board, well, there are so many of you who had children participate in Inventive Minds, but I don't know, I think some of you may not be fully aware of what the program entails. So I do want to just, fill you in on how the program operates. We created the program in 2001 because we wanted to offer a critical thinking program for the students at Kyler. From 2001 to 2011, the program involved 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade inventors. Along the way, due to circumstances beyond our control, we had to eliminate 5th grade inventors, and they were disappointed. But there was no way that we could get around that due to redistricting in other schools that participated. From that point until now, it's remained a program that serves 3rd and 4th grade programs, or 3rd and 4th grade inventors. And the program runs from January to March, but Heidi, and I'm sure Nora and Tammy, you start the planning in December because you have to have all your ducks in a row before you go to your administrator to say, this is our timeline, this is what we need, this is our checklist. So it entails just a lot before the program starts. As program consultants, we met with inventors once a week for formal instruction and then moved into breakout groups so inventors could share ideas and give each other feedback. The goal of the first meeting is to show the children that anyone can be an inventor. You don't have to be the A+ student. You don't have to be the student that excels at everything. At the first meeting, they're given a packet with all program materials that are reviewed in detail. Instruction focuses on the fact that an invention is created to solve a problem. They leave with an assignment. Think of an invention. And this is where the excitement begins because they can't contain themselves. They are just so excited. The goal of the second meeting is to further excite students and to show them that an invention doesn't have to be anything new or profound. After initial instruction, the students work in small groups, doing a variety of planned activities. The assignment for this week, think of an invention and complete the intent to invent, which is due the following week. The goal of the third meeting is to fine-tune their invention idea and to do further research to be certain the invention does not exist. The program consultants read and give written feedback to the inventors. Fellow inventors give feedback and offer suggestions to each other. There's a lot of collaboration among inventors, and they learn that you can't just say, your invention rocks. They learn how to communicate in a positive, constructive way with their peers, what they think they could change to make their invention better. At the end of this meeting, the children are given a first draft packet that has to be completed in order for them to get their display board, and that's their presentation board that they use at the competitions. At the fourth meeting, inventors are presented with display board models that exemplify what a 1, 2, 3, and 4 look like. For those of you not familiar with the rating scale, a 4 is like an A+, a 3 is about, but I'm not supposed to equate it with letter grades, but A, B, C, D, or A, B, C needs improvement, I'll say, not D. They have the opportunity to evaluate the boards. If they have completed their draft packet, they are given their display board, which they have 2 weeks to complete. You can well imagine the sense of pride inventors have as they transport their display boards to their classrooms. Meeting 5 requires inventors to have their completed display board and invention. The boards are set up in rooms and the inventors do a walkthrough to view what others have done. This is a time to encourage each other and to give each other a pat on the back. It's amazing to witness the interactions among the inventors as they admire and provide feedback to their peers. We teach the children how to present their invention in preparation for the upcoming in-school competition. At the end of the meeting weeks, inventors then participate in an in-school competition where they compete against each other. Winners from this competition, which usually are 12 to 15 inventors, move on to compete in the invitational competition, which involves 2 to 3 neighboring school districts. This competition can take place at Kyler or at one of the other schools. Those who participate take turns being the host school. I went back to my records, and from 2001 to 2020, approximately 945 Kyler students participated in the Inventive Minds program. We know the program continues to have great participation because we left the program in very, very capable hands. Tammy and Nora were able to keep Inventive Minds alive at the height of COVID by involving inventors virtually. Very hard for us to imagine the amount of planning and additional effort involved to make this possible for Kyler inventors when everything else seemed to be shutting down. They were faced with a problem and came up with a solution. Red Creek has had great success at the invitational competitions. Red Creek inventors consistently place in the top 5 every year, but 2016, when we had 0. Heidi and I came back from that competition, went to our rooms. Heidi came down to my room, we looked at each other and burst into tears because.
But then we revamped our program.
We had a problem.
Solve that problem.
And I just remember that night because it was a quiet ride home and we just weren't used to that. So anyway, Red Creek has had great success at the end of invitational competitions. Red Creek inventors consistently placed, I said that already, didn't I? Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Because of looking at a program that we created, that we left in great hands, and
It's our baby.
it's our baby, it's our baby. So anyway, sorry. I didn't go on to count how many inventors placed in the top 10, but I will note that Red Creek has been highly successful in this program. It is a program that parents, students, staff, and administration have always been supportive of. And it's disappointing to know that the future of the program may be in jeopardy because the solutions presented have not been accepted. What I have detailed in my remarks is just a very small snapshot of the work that goes into the Inventive Minds program, as well as the benefits to Kyler students. We were, and Tammy and Nora are, working with anywhere from 35 to 45, 8, 9, and 10-year-old children. They require a lot of guidance. They're not put in a room to work independently. It is why we call ourselves consultants, because we provide endless support to encourage and get the inventors where they need to be. This program requires a lot of energy, time, and planning, most of which occurs outside of school hours. Benefits to students are many. Throughout the course of the program, students are involved in the following: collaboration among inventors, with fourth graders mentoring and providing constructive feedback to third grade inventors new to the program. Parent-child interaction, as parents are encouraged to foster their inventors along the way. Critical thinking skills are enhanced throughout the course of the entire program. Students develop perseverance as they work through the inventive process, because they learn that when they come with an invention, usually by the end of the program, they have had to tweak it 3 or 4 times. And that comes from the feedback from both the consultants and from their peers. And their peers' feedback is much more powerful than ours. A sense of accomplishment and recognition from peers and Kyler staff for completing a rigorous program. Honing of presentation skills as they practice and then present to judges at the competitions. And a catalyst to feed future STEM programs, such as Envirothon, Science Olympiad, and what I learned just now, this pitch program. Because what was said and what these students are doing as the first annual pitch competition is what we do in Inventive Minds. And that was powerful. And every single student there was a student inventor participating in our program when they were in elementary school. That was something that really struck us as we were sitting here. Since the inception of Inventive Minds, Red Creek has been the model for the program. When asked by other districts the secret to our success, we credit the administration, parents, staff, PTA, and the volunteers who have provided help and support. Tonight, as Mrs. Dates so clearly expressed, please, please do not accept Mrs. Curtis and Mrs. Bartholomew's letter of resignation. Instead, as a collaborative board, working for what is in the best interest of children, come up with a viable solution to this problem so that Mrs. Curtis and Mrs. Bartholomew can proceed with the program. Heidi and I would like to sincerely thank each of you for considering this request, and we are just so engrossed in the benefits of this program. It is our baby, and my fear is that if it doesn't happen, it's going to be very hard to pick up. And it isn't a program that you can go down the hall and say, hey, will you coach Inventive Minds? Tammy and Nora participated for, well, 2016 was when we had those 0 students placed in the top 5. We came up with the solution of reaching out to staff to see if they would work with small groups, because 2 people cannot give what 40 students need, especially when they're the age of elementary students. So Tammy and Nora got to know the program by being consultants and working alongside of us as volunteers. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Shelton,
Oh,
right in the back there.
Wow, that just is mind-boggling that those 2 people don't get paid separately. I just don't get it. When any other sport, any other junior high coach gets paid. But these women, thank you, by the way, Cheryl won first place for the
Yes.
super duper pooper scooper,
Yes.
for the ferrets.
Yes.
It was a really good program, she was so excited, you know.
She was a great
It's mind-blowing to me that anybody on this Board of Education would even consider reducing their pay, and that's not even what I'm here to talk about. But it all ties into what I have to say. So thank you all for your commitment to this school. And thank you to the Zacks who left, because what's gonna happen is people like these young people, they're gonna leave for higher paying wages, for higher paying jobs, because Red Creek doesn't pay their staff what they're worth. How do I know this? Because I worked here for 22 years, friends. And I had to leave to get a better job, because my husband's retiring and I have to work. Red Creek couldn't support me. And that is sad, because I put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I put in a lot of abuse from students, like the teachers and the support staff do. Verbal and physical abuse. There should be compensation for these people. We can somehow find a way to take a study hall monitor, make him the Rams room director, then make him the community center director, and pay him for the 21st Century Grant. I think at that time it was a total of $60,000. Maybe I'm wrong, Brad. But you did go to that board meeting because you were on both boards, went in, and when you came out, the director no longer had to have a physical education degree. That's one of the things I want to talk about, the hiring practices at Red Creek. Is the board aware of hiring practices at Red Creek? Because you should take a good look at them. Because there's more than just that hiring practice that seemed to, I don't even remember a job posting. When it was questioned, then all of a sudden there was a job posting. This is the kind of thing that goes on that brings morale at Red Creek down low, very low. And the board should be very concerned about this, because we were a blue ribbon school at one time. We were. Now, and I still, even though I'm no longer employed here, have a lot of communication with support staff and with whatever teaching staff is left, because a lot of the high school teachers have left for higher paying jobs. Now, it really needs to be looked at. This is ridiculous. We are the lowest paid school in Wayne County, but yet we have people like the Zacks that are willing to put everything forward to make our school better. That deserves compensation. Getting to that, what happened to the $4 million that we got from the pandemic? Because when I asked the former superintendent, thank you, Jesus, that he's gone, he said that we got $4 million, but it can't be, I didn't even ask, can teachers and staff get raises with that money? It came from his mouth. We can't use that on pay raises. But lo and behold, when I was watching one of my favorite shows, Rachel Maddow on MSNBC, yes, people, I'm a Democrat and I'm a liberal. I'm proud of it. They put down all the requirements for that $4 million. And in the requirements that the federal government gave was to support current teaching staff in whatever way schools see fit. Now, maybe you didn't get that paper, but it was right there on the screen. I was reading it, okay? I know some of the hiring practices while I was still working at school. Teachers, good teachers that staff, departments wanted to be hired, weren't hired because they asked for more money and they were turned down. So we hired number 5 on the list. How does that help Red Creek become a blue ribbon school again? I don't get it. I really don't. Anyway, you're supposed to be reporting to the federal government how much money you've spent out of that pandemic money. Is the Board of Education doing that? I don't know. Let's see, let me get to my list here. Also, on one of the many poorly audioed board meetings that I was watching from home, because I do wear a mask still. I have a husband that's has a low immune system and I have to be wearing a mask out in public, was a person that ran for the board, and she came in and she was upset because she stayed for the counting of the ballots, and she stated that she was treated poorly and that the ballots she felt and another person that had run felt were not counted right. And when they challenged the people that were counting the ballots, they were treated rudely and told, if you want to know if you don't like it, then you count them yourself. And I'm wondering, has the board talked about this since, I think it was you that made those comments, I was watching it. Has the board had a conversation about this? Has the board decided how they're going to count ballots for the next election? Because that's probably something, especially in this day and age, when people don't believe that voting is real. I believe voting is real, and I don't think there's a lot of dirty play. That's my own personal opinion. But if someone was there and they were watching and they came to the board after the election, yes, she did lose, and said there was a problem, then in my mind, I think, well, then the Board of Education is probably going to get right on this, and they're going to talk about how they're going to count the ballots for the next election. So I'm wondering, have you put together a plan? That's just a question that I put out there. Let's see here. I have more information about hiring practices that not only I, but employees at the school felt were sort of shady, not right. If you are interested in finding out that information, feel free to call me. I will be glad to give anybody my phone number. I think it's important that the Board of Education is informed on what's going on in the school. Many people are still very unhappy with what's happening, okay? I stood outside doing morning duty when I worked in the high school with Ms. Hinman, while our former superintendent came up and talked disparagingly about bus drivers that were driving, shortly before all those bus drivers left for another school. She came to me herself and said, I walked away finally because I couldn't stand hearing it anymore. She came to me and said, I wish I could do that. And I said, what? And she said, walk away, but I have to stand here and listen to it. Is that correct? You did say that.
I don't believe I said that.
Oh, yes, you did.
I don't know that that's okay.
Yes, that's what you said.
Kate.
But I can understand why you won't say that you did, because that's who you are. But I am concerned, very concerned about the way this school is going. Not only as a taxpayer that lives in this community, but as a former employee who gave my heart and soul to this school. So I hope that some of these things that I brought up tonight, the $4 million, the hiring practices, and just the general looks on your faces of not very concerned about these women over here that have given a lot to this school and a program that has helped those kids that were up there that won money. You know, you sit there and you look away, you look down, you act like you don't really care. That's the problem. Try to pay attention. Listen to what people say to you. It could help. Bring up the spirits of the people that work at the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing that there's no one else for a public forum, we're gonna keep.
Can I just say something really briefly?
Sure.
Really briefly. So I was kind of on the fence about whether or not I wanted to address the board, but I feel like it's important. I have talked to Rena Hinman. We've kind of gone back and forth a lot. I've really been trying to solve this at that level, and I know Ms. Hayes and I have kind of gone back and forth a little bit. I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of how much our health department is struggling right now. I know I've kind of expressed some concerns to a couple of you, but it seems from anecdotal experience and from what I'm hearing from the students that there are a lot of kids right now in the high school that are struggling, that have been advanced math students, that are generally strong students. I know probably it's partially COVID and the losses that we had for a couple years, and now kids are just being kind of expected to pick up where their counterparts would have not struggled they are struggling. I know Ms. Hinman and I have talked, and she's really trying to work on some supports, but I don't know if there's more as the board that you guys can offer or resources that you might have with the COVID money to really offer some more deep support for kids. We're halfway through the year. There's, from what I understand, half-ish or more of our high school kids are failing math right now in their various classes. It's problematic. I think we're going to find ourselves in a real pickle in a year or two when these kids are not able to meet graduation requirements. Also, I want to thank you guys for doing Inventive Minds, because it's a lovely program for our kids that they just need that energy, and it gives them a different outlet and a different way to learn things that is really hands-on for them that they might not get in the classroom. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you. You can always circle yes and then just say never mind,
Okay.
because I actually thought I missed you, so I'm sorry.
No, you didn't miss me. I just was on.
No, that's okay. Just put it right in the middle, and then we'll see that you're amazing.
I appreciate all of the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's it for public forum. We're gonna move on to B, minutes. I'd like to take 1, 2, and 3, which is the December 7th, 21st, and January 11th. Please, thank you, Mrs.
Yeah.
Dingman. Second by Mr. Dates. Any questions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on. The C, financial reports, the treasurer's report for November 2022 and the warrants. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mrs. Kaiser, and a second by Mrs. Dingman. Any questions on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on. Okay, E, new business. If we look at one certified staff, there are several on here with 2 late additions. So I'm open for a motion if someone's willing to give me one.
Could I have a motion for certified staff A through H?
H is in Henry.
Henry, yes.
Okay. Could I have a second for that? E1, A through H, Mrs. Bliss. Mr. McDonald, you tell me when you're. You okay? Okay.
Mrs. Kaiser.
Oh, no. Can you give me just one? I just meant, were you ready? Okay. Sorry, any questions on that group? Okay, now you can ask Mrs. Kaiser. Sorry.
Still yes.
Mr. Norbeck.
Yes.
Mr. Dates.
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss.
Yes.
Mrs. Bingham.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes,
7-0.
thank you. Take a motion for another chunk or something.
Do you wanna make a motion for J through P?
J through, I'm sorry,
P?
P is in Patrick?
Yes.
Okay, could I have a second for that? I think that we're skipping that would be my,
Through P, yeah.
so I have J is in.
I'll second J through P.
Thank you. That's J through P. Mr. McDonald,
Okay, got it.
thank you. Any questions on this group? When you're ready.
Mrs. Dingman.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen.
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss.
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser.
Yes.
Mr. Norbeck.
Yes.
Mr. Dates.
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes,
7-0.
thank you.
We'll make a motion for R and S.
I'll second that.
So the motion on the floor is E1, R, and S. Mrs. Bliss and Mrs. Dingman. Thank you. Any questions on these two? Are you ready?
Mr. Dates.
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Norbeck.
Yes. Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan,
Yes.
7-0.
I'm assuming we're looking to take these separately, so could I have a motion for E1I, please? Thank you, Mrs. Allen, and a second by Mrs. Bliss. Questions?
This is gonna be like a supplemental STEM enhancement.
Other questions? When you're ready.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Damon,
No.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Nodak,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan,
Yes.
6-1.
Okay. Could I have a motion, please, for E1Q? Mrs. Kaiser, and a second by Mrs. Bliss. You okay? Okay. Any questions? Comments?
Well, I think we've heard a lot tonight with regard to this. You know, it's so interesting, the presentation that we had from Wayne County for the, and from the ZECs. And the court, you know, the theme of what Inventive Minds helps create. You know, we've been very successful in Envirothon. We've been very successful as a school district with kids that do well under the guidance that we're giving with Science Olympiad. And so I think we're in a position that we have to be somehow creative in our mindset as to how to make sure a program like this still exists and still occurs. Hate to have any lapse in this, and it's a struggle for me to want to accept two persons that resignation for all the effort that they put in and all the work that's gone into this. And to, I think it behooves us to work somehow with the union and the administration to make sure that these people can get to, we've got resources that we need to look under every rock to do it, make it happen.
I would have to agree. I think that program is vital to development of students at that age. I think it's great. It definitely springboards them into programs like we saw here for the high school. And, you know, I would seriously hate to see it go away. And I think if there's some adjustments we can make somewhere to try to make this work, there should be further discussions surrounding it.
I agree. I feel like the ideas that we're told were brought to us, I don't know necessarily if, like, they don't all ring a bell to me that they were discussed, all of the proposed ideas. I think there's definitely gotta be funding. I don't know contractually how that works, but with the 21st century program and such, I feel like whatever needs to be done contractually.
I agree.
This is absolutely a very important program for the elementary kids. The teacher's contract indicates, though, how much the stipend is. Right, wrong, or indifferent of what people were paid for in the past, it is defined in the contract of what they should be paid. And it was the union that brought this up to the district. I certainly would hate for this to go away, but we didn't write the letter of resignation. The letter of resignation was presented to us. So they can still resign. They could still have rescinded this and worked with their union to offer something. And I understand that there's two things that were presented, but I have to believe that Inventive Minds will still take place this year. Like, we can accept a resignation and still have a plan for a program to take place.
I had reached out, and we talked about this, I had reached out with a thought, because I suspected just through the holidays, and frankly, I'm easy enough, you know, Heidi's my sister-in-law, I know the time that she put into it all those years, and we were together over the holidays, and I started to hear this, and I'm saying, what is going on? And so I reached out, I said, it's time for us to come up with a solution. These ladies, we need to provide them the same thing that we have printed all over the district, the Rams logo, the respect for what has happened there, and we need to be able to provide this. You know, so contract or not, we voted many years in the past to get the full stipend to both. It's been given. So past practice demonstrates this. And whether it came up now with from the union or not, because with all the schools I've ever been involved with, this is an interesting concept that the union would not want their members to be receiving the pay. That I've never been involved with where the union would not endorse the opportunity for any of their members to receive full and any compensation provided. And since we've had past practice of this, I think we're on solid ground to be able to say, you know what, that's the way the contract reads, but we could still give them that, and if there's a grievance, we'll be ready to deal with it in some way, shape, or form. But why would people grieve their own members? So I think this is a catalyst to take care of these people, but also to take care of the contract as it is, not just for this, but Science Olympiad, Envirothon, all of them, the people that put in the ZECs, all the extra work that happens. So it's just ironic that the moons aligned tonight with what we got presented with.
Brett, can I say something? I think you make a good point. I think it's a fantastic program. Children that obviously went through it. It concerns me a little when you say not to worry about the contract, because I think that when we're in the situation where an error for us has been brought forward by the people involved in it, I think that we could be opening ourselves up to others' expectations to break the contract for certain situations, and that does concern me.
Well, this is when an MOAs go into place and opportunities for an adjustment of this, particularly since it's been passed.
I understand. But so I guess I'd just like to come back to, this is not a resolution to increase the pay for this program. This is a resolution to accept the resignation right now of the two people that are running it. So I think that we have to understand what we're voting on and what we want to do moving forward. But this currently, the resolution in front of us is to accept the resignation. If we don't accept the resignation, that's obviously up to us too, but the stipend was already approved. It doesn't change that right now. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page when we're voting.
So how does that work as far as changing a stipend at this point? If we vote no to not accept a resignation, where does it come in for a stipend change if that comes up?
Well, apparently there are lots of different conversations to have about that. But I think that if, I would assume that if we were to take it's just an assumption, if we were to take did you refer to yourselves as consultants? Is that accurate? Okay. If we were to take a stipend change to paying certain consultants, I would assume that there would be need to be a conversation about other groups that also feel that they're not being paid enough.
So you're asking to open up the contract?
I'm not. I'm saying that I think that she just asked how would we do it, and I think there are contractual conversations, and I think it would. It's not just singled to this one particular item. If other people wanted to open up the contract and go that route, does that make sense?
I'm confused on I think it's probably the consensus of the group. I think it does sadden me that anybody in this community would think that anybody on this board doesn't appreciate and respect that program, because we do. We weren't presented with, do you think they're worth this amount of money or not? That's not what we were presented with. But what I'm confused on is the union brought it to us, but there wasn't anything with, we would like to, we think that this is worth 2 of them, it's been incorrect, we think they are being paid correctly, it's just not correct in the contract. Here's an MOA that we would like to propose that pays them both, or, you know, the contract, the district pays half and half. And then the 21st Century Grant is going to approve a new appointment that's gonna pay the stipend, and it goes half and half. Which I don't think goes against the contract. Like, I don't understand like where the breakdown was on why it says that some of these solutions were brought to somebody, I'm not sure to who. Specifically the 21st Century proposal. I'm not sure where that went or where that stopped.
That's actually one of my questions. So those proposals were brought.
Ask questions.
Oh, I was looking at this.
Oh, right. Okay.
So some of that is just the sheer complexity of the whole system. All those stipends are spelled out in Schedule B in the contract, which really needs to be completely revamped.
Agreed.
So in working with the union this year to talk about that, we decided that for this year, for all of the clubs, we would leave it as it is, do what we needed to do this year, and then look at Schedule B and what the clubs need to do to show what a reasonable stipend would be and correct those for next year. But to try to do that work this year and make all that happen in time, there's just not the time to do it. So that's the agreement that I came to with the union, that they thought was best also, is let's do the programs for kids this year and then start working on the Schedule B and getting stipends where they need to be, because there's a huge domino effect. You know, you approve an additional amount of money in this stipend for this year, then there's all other clubs that are going to be out of whack, and we're going to be having this conversation over and over again. There's another club that's similar, that the stipend is split 4 ways. So, you know, like I said, we came to the realization, leave it where it is for this year. Everybody will do their thing, and we'll work on fixing it for next year.
So could we possibly end up with resignations from the group that's split by 4? Because as well, I mean, could we be facing at another meeting all of the people that's having this split up 4 ways, which shouldn't be happening. I was part of the negotiations. We finished this up in the summer, and the understanding was the union was going to be working on Plan B. We all knew that the Schedule B, needed adjustments. Through the transition of what's happened, maybe it's fallen to the back burner, but we can't let this program suffer because of a failure of other aspects that have occurred that have pushed it to the back burner. We could be we could be on solid ground to be able to address this with the union, in my mind, to say, this is a starting point for Schedule B. This is the first instance of something that needs adjustment. Let's work on adjusting. It's hard for me to want to not endorse a program that's been so successful for 900 plus kids over the years.
So is the idea of it additionally being funded by 21st Century not an option?
That's not what this resolution is for, though. This is about a resignation. Whether 9 or 7 people vote yes or vote no, they still resign. Like, nobody is held to the fire to keep a position that they don't want.
I-
Their position is still, like, they have resigned from that.
But the rationale for that, there's a rationale for that.
I think that we have to, it's 8:45. I think we have to, I think we can talk about this probably back and forth for a while. I think it's important right now that we consider the resolution that's in front of us and vote on what's here. And if there needs to be other conversation or plans for moving forward, then we need to do that, but that's we're not voting on a financial amount right now for this club.
So for clarification, I just wanna make sure I'm understanding what Nancy's saying. So they've submitted a letter of resignation and we accept it or don't accept it. She said that whether we accept it or don't accept it, they still have resigned.
They have resigned from the position, yes.
So even if we don't accept the resignation, the position, they're no longer in the position.
That is correct.
But then that says to us, because I was disappointed with the suspicion this might come up, that there wasn't maybe a recommendation that suddenly somebody's gonna run the program. There's nothing that indicates that's gonna happen here. So, sure, you're right, Nancy, you're right. The resignations are there, accepted or not. Our charge is to come up with a solution so this doesn't happen to kids, because this is, our mission statement speaks to this, everything speaks to this, this is what needs to be addressed.
I think that what we talked about though is that if there was other interested parties in this program, they would not be on this agenda, considering that we were accepting resignations on this agenda. And I believe that they could be appointed before the next board meeting.
Correct.
By the superintendent to put this program back into place. And I'm just saying that it doesn't necessarily have to be on this agenda.
It doesn't, you're right, but often it is, where we have
I
somebody
understand,
resign,
yep.
is that we do fill, so.
Yep. Okay, other questions? Okay. Ready?
Mrs. Bliss,
No.
Mr. Nodine,
No.
Mrs. Allen,
Abstain.
Mrs. Kaiser,
No.
Mr. Dates,
No.
Mrs. Dignan,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan,
Yes.
the motion fails. 2 yes, 4 no, 1 abstain.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. E2 classified staff.
I'll motion for A through O.
Second. Okay. A through O, Mrs. Allen and Mrs. Kaiser. Questions on this group? So that would be all of them, in case anyone didn't hear it.
Can we pull out O?
Nope. Yes.
No, the motion is, make the change.
Mrs. Dingman, did you make the motion?
No.
No, I did, but
Mrs.
I'll
Kaiser, would you
amend.
remove O?
I will amend and remove O, so we're A through N.
Mrs. Allen, did you second? The revision on the second, Mrs. Allen. Okay. Other questions on this group? When you're ready, sir.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yep.
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Dignan,
Yes.
Mr. Dates,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, please, for E to O? Mrs. Kaiser, and a second by Mrs. Allen. Just kind of ironic, 'cause I just did it. Questions on this position?
My question is, what contract does this position fall under? Does it fall under, is it hire at will?
Excuse me, it's a civil service position.
So that's the CSEA contract?
No.
No. It's a civil service competitive position, so it's a standalone.
So is there a contract that we have in place or that we're putting in place?
Yes.
Is that part of the confidential managerial staff?
It would be now, I believe, right?
Do we have
Ooh,
written terms and conditions for, like when we hire a supervisor position, do we have something that indicates, hey, this is what your insurance contributions are, this is, you know, what benefits you have?
That's a good question. So I in hiring this position, I went to look for that documentation. It does not exist. So I've talked to our legal counsel about that. So we will be putting that together for this position and all the other positions that it doesn't exist for.
Okay.
In the past, that's been done during onboarding and really not memorialized someplace. So that's something that we're working on cleaning up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good.
Other questions about, oh. It sounded weird the way I just said it. When you're ready.
Mrs. Dingman,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Dates,
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes,
Passes 7-0.
thank you. Okay, E3, the CSE and CPSE
Yeah.
hold on just a second. Congratulations, Mr. Bacchus.
Yeah.
Brad, it hit me 30 seconds
Yeah.
late, so. E3, the CSE and Steve, would you like to stand up?
Sure.
Okay. Welcome to the team.
I think I know most of you guys. There's a couple of faces I don't recognize. Apologize that I'm a little underdressed. I literally jumped off a bus and flew here. I gained my license through Red Creek in 2015. I worked here till 2021. I left. I wasn't happy about leaving, but it's something I felt like I had to do. I'm very excited to be back. I appreciate the opportunity, and I won't let you guys down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, E3, Mr. Dates, could I still take that motion?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And a second by Mrs. Kaiser. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. I'm sorry?
Julia left, I was gonna ask you a question. Oh, yes.
Oh, she ducked out.
Yeah, she has to get up very early in the morning to drive, so I told her.
Okay, E4, approval of the mathathon. Could I have a motion, please? Mrs. Bliss, and a second by Mr. Nodine. Any questions on this one? You ready?
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mr. Dates,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. Some of these could be grouped together, so if somebody wants to,
I'm gonna motion for 5 through 12. Can we do that? 5 through 12.
can I get a second for E5 through 12, Mr. Nodine? Mrs. Kaiser was first. No, we can't. All right, thanks a lot, Mr. McDonald.
If I could just add, I need a roll call for 8 and.
We'll do them all roll
excuse me,
call.
7 and 8, I need a roll call.
They have to be independent roll call?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
Which ones?
7 and 8 for the acceptance, I need a separate roll call.
Could I amend that motion to E6, 9 through 12?
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Nodine.
Second.
Perfect.
Did we do five?
we have to do
We gotta do five too.
That was on my list, Mr. McDonald, sorry. 5,
5,
6,
6, 9
through 12.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Okay.
Questions? Anybody?
Yeah, I had somebody ask a question when they saw the surplus. And the way I read that, the list, can people, where do people put in bids if they wanted to bid on
We are now using Auction International.
Auction International now?
Oh,
Okay.
that's wonderful.
Okay, so they go there to, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
I missed the first and second.
I'm really sorry, but we're not gonna be able to go back. Mrs. Kaiser and Mr. Nodine for both.
Thank you.
Any other questions? When you're ready.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Dignan,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes,
Passes 7-0.
thank you. Could I have a motion, please, for E7? Mrs. Dingman and a second by Mrs. Bliss. Questions? When you're ready, sir.
Okay. Mrs. Dignan,
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser.
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Motion.
Motion.
Motion for me.
Second.
So we'll take E8. Motion by Mr. Dates and a second by Mrs. Kaiser. If you guys just want to wait for him to at least call your names before you vote.
Call the number.
Any questions on this group?
I do, sorry. It states in the report that idle class, activities, clubs, for more than a year need to be, disposed of as of the board policy. Is the board policy consistent with the New York State recommendation that it goes to extra class, or, student government?
It does go to student council, and that's what they've been ready
And
for.
you had more than the two that was listed. Were they active and just didn't have money exchange hands through the year?
They were not active, but they were not active due to COVID, such as the ski club, the drama clubs. So they are active this year,
Okay,
so we're.
Thank you.
They're
She's probably ready to vote now, too. Any other questions? Okay, great. When you're ready, sir.
Mrs. Allen,
yes.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mrs. Dingman,
Yep.
Mr. Dates,
Yes.
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. I don't know what Scholar Athlete Teams is.
I vote yes.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, that's,
Mr. Van Orman might be,
Mr.
but there was a
Van
report in there.
yeah, it's for
Right.
Mr. Bernard.
It was great.
Did you have something that
There
you
was,
wanted?
correspondence?
Yes. Great job. Did you want to talk about it, or you just want to toss this with
So it's a part of New York State Athletic Association program. It just recognizes student athletes or teams that achieve a certain amount or percentage of their team that has a cumulative average of 90 or higher for those individual teams. So what you saw in that report was representative of that for fall sports only. They do it 3 times a year. So the winter one comes out at the end of January into February.
Thank you.
Congratulations to track. Track had both boys and girls, 100% of their participation was Scholar athletes, so congratulations to the Scout track
I
program.
just wanted to give Matt, Mr. Van Orman, a shout out on this one. When he volunteered to take over the duties of athletic director, the deadline for this was the next day?
The previous day.
The previous day. So I said, could you please call state ed and see if there's any way that we could, squeak it in. And so he did that and convinced them, and they let us,
Thank
a very
Thank
short
you.
deadline, and he
Yes,
pulled it
thank you.
together very quickly to get this
Appreciate it.
done for kids.
It's quick. Do we have a special ceremony for the scholar athletes? Are they recognized?
We give them, so New York State issues a certificate for them and a pin identifying them as scholar athletes. And then the timing of it is tricky because those sports seasons had concluded. So I handed those certificates and pins out to the coaches, who then were able to give those to the students.
Is it announced on the announcements, maybe?
I'm not sure.
It can be.
That might have been a suggestion.
Yeah.
If rhetorical question there.
Maybe by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? I think I can take care of that.
Thank you guys very much.
You got it.
Any other questions? Anything else for new business?
Thank you for the administrative reports.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
The one administrative report, and I'm terrible, I cannot remember. I think it was in your report, and I cannot remember her name, and I feel really bad. You had mentioned someone specifically that really was a big help to, the,
Christmas gifts.
yes.
Oh,
I just,
Justine.
yes,
Justine Quackenbush, she's the
Quackenbush,
accounts
yes.
payable clerk in the business office.
I just wanted
Really
to,
went above and beyond.
just really wanted to give a thank you to her for that.
Yeah, that is good.
Awesome. Any, did you have more? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? I just wanted to say that Mrs. Dingman reminded me that way back in August, we had talked about trying to add in some more positive type student things to the agendas, and that we were gonna try and make something at every meeting. And I talked to Kim about it, and I'm just wondering what the thoughts are if we could add a section for student recognition.
I love it.
Everyone would be okay with that, and then obviously the superintendent, or if we have some idea, could be added on there.
Mhm.
That sound okay?
Would
Anybody
that be
against?
at like the beginning?
Yeah, Nancy actually mentioned that as well, so they don't have to sit here. As you could see, they all stuck around. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would probably say that even if it was within the reporting piece, they could still go first, you know. But I think it was, we did it a while ago, and I'm assuming it probably dropped off because of COVID, because nobody came and it was virtual. But I think it might be a nice thing to bring back and maybe find a way to recognize students that we don't always get to in different ways. So if that's okay, we'll add that onto the next agenda.
Yep.
Okay,
And
perfect.
And it really goes into, I mean, really throws the, building level administrators and all the, programs to be able to garner something for every meeting somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that every one of them has, but somehow, it might be the elementary one time. high
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if there isn't anything else, I'll take a motion at 9:01 to move into executive for a personnel matter. Mrs. Kaiser, a second by Mrs. Dingman. Thank you very much for coming.